Welcome to News from Quiet Places, where we bring you stories from corners of the world you might not hear about in Europe. I'm Mikhailo. Today we've got updates from Africa and Asia. Let's dive in. Story 1. Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention on Cholera surge in Africa. A health authority says Africa is facing the worst cholera outbreak in 25 years. Over 300,000 cases recorded in this year across 23 countries, more than 7,000 deaths. Countries especially affected, Burundi and Angola, where fragile water and sanitation infrastructure are major problems. Why it matters? This is both a public health and development issue. Outbreaks like this can hamper economic growth, deepen inequality, and highlight how infrastructure defects still cost lives. For European wealthy audiences, it reminds us that major health crises don't only happen in distant past pandemics, they are unfolding now in places outside mainstream media focus. Story 2. International Labour Organization launches major support program for South Asia Gulf migrant workers. The ILO launched the STREAM program, extending social protection to migrant workers and their families in the South Asia Gulf corridor, covering 4 South Asian countries: India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, plus the 6 Gulf Cooperation Council states. It is gender-responsive, rights-based, and designed to extend social protection, healthcare, unemployment insurance, compensation for migrant workers and their families. Why it matters? Migrant workers are a huge unseen workforce whose contributions fuel economies both in origin and destination countries. Yet they often lack protection. For European listeners, it tells us about a vast labor corridor that directly connects developing Asia and Gulf states, and which has global economic implications. Story 3. South Africa and the Group of 20 and empty chair in the spotlight. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa said his country will symbolically hand over the G20 presidency to an empty chair because the US will not attend the Johannesburg summit. The US, under Donald Trump, has said no officials will attend because of what it alleges the human rights abused in South Africa, claims dealing with minority white farmers. Ramaphosa dismissed these claims and stressed economic ties. Why it matters? The G20 summit in Africa was supposed to amplify Global South voices, a major moment for African leadership in global governance, but a major power opting out undermines the symbolism and potentially the substance of the event. For European audiences, this is more than politics. It touches on trade, investment, governance, and how Africa positions itself in world affairs. 5 more stories from Asia and islands. Story 1. Myanmar's solar surge amid power crisis. In Myanmar, households, clinics, and businesses are increasingly relying on Chinese-made solar panels as blackouts become more frequent. The electricity grid has deteriorated sharply since the 2021 coup, and fuel storages make traditional power generations unreliable. Why it matters? This isn't just about green energy. For many in Myanmar, solar is a survival strategy in a conflict-stricken, energy-starved country. Story 2. Papua New Guinea mining violence escalates. In Papua New Guinea, a police operation against informal miners turned violent. According to a regional overview, an operation at a restricted electricity infrastructure site led to clashes and one miner reportedly drowned trying to escape. This incident is a part of a broader trend. ATSLET data notes rising security incidents tied to informal mining in Papua New Guinea's highlands. Why it matters? Informal mining in Papua New Guinea isn't just an economic issue, it's deeply tied to local power, land rights, and social conflict. For global observers, it shows how resource governance and violence are tightly linked in smaller developing states. Story 3. Solomon Islands and Fiji strengthen justice cooperation. The Solomon Islands has stepped up its judicial cooperation with Fiji, where justice ministers held a conversation and are planning shared projects. Particularly, Solomon Islands want to learn from Fiji's e-filing system to improve access to justice and reduce court delays. Why it matters? For small island nations, institutional capacity is a big constraint. By building collaboration, they can strengthen their rule of law systems while preserving local autonomy. Story 4. Pacific Islands renewable energy ambitions. A broader report highlights how many Pacific Islands nations are pushing to move away from diesel generators and toward renewables, especially solar plus batteries. These outer islands, often burdened by high fuel costs and fragile grids, are well positioned to leapfrog into clean energy. AVs, solar-powered boats, and decentralized storage are part of regional plans. Why it matters? Climate change and energy dependency are existential issues for many island states, where energy transition isn't just about sustainability, it's about survival and economic independence. Story 5. Myanmar sanctions and solar industry dynamics. Beyond just adoption, there is political complexity. Myanmar's regime has granted tax exemptions on imported solar equipment, apparently to encourage more installations. At the same time, some solar sellers are closely tied to the military, raising questions about who profits from this solar boom. Why it matters? The energy transformation in Myanmar is not purely grassroots. It intersects with political patronage and authoritarian dynamics. For outside observers, it's a reminder that even green shifts can be deeply political. That concludes today's edition of News from Quiet Places. Thanks for listening. If you found value in these stories, subscribe, share and send suggestions for the regions you'd like us to cover next. I'm Mikhailo. See you next time.